They are sworn to protect and serve, but a community watchdog investigation found some of Tennessee's law enforcement officers need to do a better job of protecting their weapons.
Now we're talking about semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, and handguns, all lost, missing, or stolen. Firearms that in some cases are further serving the purposes of criminals. After months of investigation, Nate Morabito discovered one of those police guns actually ended up in the hands of a felon at the scene of a violent crime.
That man reportedly pistol whipped a woman with a stolen police gun and then pointed it at someone else's head. Imagine the Elizabethton Police Chief's surprise when we told him his department's gun is now evidence linked to that aggravated assault in Johnson City. A case that went federal 4.5 years after a rookie officer left that gun unsecured. Prosecutors call him Slim, but his rap sheet lists Christopher Horton by his real name. He's a felon with a criminal history that goes back to at least 2004 and now includes new crimes. A federal judge recently sentenced Slim to 12 years in prison after police caught him with a gun like this one.
Apparently he had struck her with a pistol as she was leaving the business
at an aggravated assault crime scene on Spring Street.
It's a very serious offense.
That 2015 assault case is still pending.
He pulled a weapon out after the altercation and pointed it at both of the patrons, and one of them he pointed the weapon at his head.
4.5 years before the gun ended up in Horton's hands here.
There was some, yes, lacking of judgment and securing that firearm at that time.
Long before Jason Shaw took over as police chief?
It's obviously not something to be proud of.
The chief told us a new Elizabethton police officer, still in the academy, left that same pistol on the side compartment of his door inside his personal SUV in Johnson City, and somebody stole it. When did you find out that this gun was connected to a crime?
When you sent me the email and asked me why the gun was over in Johnson City.
Chief Shaw told us he's relieved the gun is now back in lockdown.
Got around the department. Hey, make sure that you keep your weapon secure.
Thank goodness that person didn't shoot anyone with that gun. I can only imagine how you'd feel then. You have to feel terrible about this as it is.
Well, I do.
EPD is far from the only department that's disciplined an officer for failing to secure a service weapon.
I mean, this service weapon is kind of like your livelihood as a police officer, honestly. So, I mean, it would be a huge deal to have that stolen from you.
The Sullivan County Sheriff's Office suspended a lieutenant in 2013 after someone broke into his police cruiser and took his pistol, 2 bulletproof vests, and handcuffs.
If someone's coming in to steal the weapon, they're either selling it for drugs or they plan to use it in another crime.
That's a message preached at the police academy. Yet reports from across the state show officers failed to prevent future crimes by not protecting their guns, including Tusculum's police chief.
It's on me. That one's on me.
That's what Chief Danny Green told us in January 2016, after he admitted he forgot to investigate an alleged abuse case at Green Valley Developmental Center.
That's all my fault.
We've since learned just weeks prior to that interview, he filed this police report. It shows someone stole his gun after he left it in his personal car when he brought it in for a tire rotation. This time, he declined an on-camera interview and called the situation an unfortunate incident. Public records identified at least 63 guns lost by or stolen from law enforcement in places all across Tennessee since 2010. More than 35 of them handguns, at least 8 rifles and 8 shotguns, most still missing today. More than a third of the guns stolen from officers' cruisers and personal cars, 7 of those from Northeast Tennessee. We also found the case of a Tennessee Highway Patrol trooper based in Fall Branch who filed a police report in Myrtle Beach. While on vacation with his family last year, he said he hid his duty pistol between the mattress and headboard of his hotel room, covered it with pillows, and then placed a Do Not Disturb sign on the door. When he returned, he noticed housekeeping cleaned the room and the gun was gone.
Individuals, especially the criminal element, steal firearms for the most part for only one purpose, and that's to commit additional criminal acts.
Michael Knight spent years as an ATF agent in Chicago. Now a supervisor in the agency's Nashville Field Division, he told us when a criminal steals a gun in one city, that gun routinely ends up far away at another crime scene.
Initially, within a very short window of time, additional crimes may occur in the city or the area of which the firearm was stolen. But after that short window of time, the firearms oftentimes will end up in other cities throughout the state or other states within the country.
ATF records show in recent years, agents linked guns from law enforcement agencies in other parts of the country to 3 crime scenes in Johnson City. None of the agencies could tell us if they're still considered the owner of the guns or if they reported any of them stolen, but also couldn't rule out that possibility. Cincinnati PD said it couldn't find a record of an officer ever using one of those guns.
In this case, there was no male intent.
Back in Elizabethton,
there was a policy change after that.
The police department since created a new policy to make sure guns are more secure and hasn't reported another stolen gun in recent years. As for Slim, his attorney says there's no proof he's the one who originally stole the gun or had any involvement in its theft. But a federal jury convicted him of possessing that police gun and using it to help traffic drugs. He's appealing that conviction, just the latest charge in his criminal history, one that includes a charge of assaulting police a dozen years ago.
The latest police gun theft occurred just last month in Washington County. Investigators confirmed they are trying to find the person who broke into a Tennessee Highway Patrol trooper's cruiser in gray and took 2 of his guns.
Nate Morbido, thank you. Want to know what agencies reported guns lost, stolen, or missing, and learn if officers face discipline? We posted a breakdown on WJHL.com.